We're all familiar with the vivid images of war-bombed cities, displaced families, and the sheer destruction that follows. These visuals are a stark reminder of the immediate and tangible impact of conflict. Each crumbling building, each devastated landscape, each tear-streaked face speaks volumes about the horrors of war. But what if I told you that these images, as harrowing as they are, only scratch the surface of the true cost of war? What if I told you that the most significant harm inflicted by conflict often goes unseen, unheard, unacknowledged? Picture a bustling city, alive with the hum of everyday life. Now, imagine it reduced to rubble, its vibrancy replaced by an eerie silence. Think about the people who once called it home, now forced to flee, leaving behind not just their belongings, but their memories, their identities, their sense of belonging. This is the visible impact of war physical destruction that disrupts lives and displaces people. Consider the infrastructure that is often targeted during wartime. Schools, hospitals, roads, bridges. These are not just buildings or pathways, they are the lifelines of a community, the very fabric of a society. Their destruction signifies not just a loss of bricks and mortar, but a loss of opportunities for growth, for progress, for a better future. Then, there's the human cost. The loss of life is, without a doubt, the most tragic consequence of war. Each life lost is a story cut short, a potential unfulfilled, a world changed forever. And for every life lost, there are countless others irrevocably altered, families torn apart, children orphaned, communities shattered. While these images are heart-wrenching, today we want to explore the often overlooked harm that extends far beyond the battlefield. We want to delve into the silent cost of war, the long-term consequences that continue to ripple out long after the last gunshot has been fired, the last bomb has been dropped. Because understanding these costs is the first step towards working for a world where peace prevails over conflict, where dialogue replaces violence, and where every life is valued. One of the most devastating aspects of wars is the human toll. It's a ripple effect that goes far beyond the immediate loss of lives. It echoes through families, neighborhoods, and entire communities, leaving wounds that may never fully heal. Consider the loss of life first. Every individual lost in a conflict leaves behind a void that can't be filled. They were someone's child, someone's sibling, someone's parent. They had dreams, ambitions, love, and laughter. They were more than just a soldier or a civilian caught in the crossfire. They were a vital thread in the fabric of their family and community. Now, imagine the impact on the families left behind, the grief of a mother who has lost her child, the confusion of a child who no longer has a parent, the despair of a partner who has lost their other half. These are the intangible costs of war, the emotional and psychological toll that isn't always captured in the headlines. Then there are the communities. Neighborhoods, once vibrant and full of life, are often left in ruins. The places where people once gathered, laughed, and lived their daily lives are reduced to rubble. The sense of community, the bonds that tie people together, are shattered. It's not just about rebuilding structures, it's about restoring the spirit of a community, a process that can take generations. And let's not forget about the displaced. Wars often force people to leave their homes, their communities, and everything they've ever known. They become refugees, often in foreign lands, struggling to rebuild their lives while grappling with the trauma of what they've been through. Wars also rob us of potential. Every life lost is a loss of potential knowledge, creativity, love, and progress. It's a loss of what could have been, a cost that's impossible to quantify. It's not just about numbers. Behind each statistic is a story, a person with dreams and aspirations. The human toll of war is a reminder of the urgent need for peace and understanding in our world. Beyond the physical casualties, wars leave an indelible mark on mental health. This impact is often unseen, unspoken, but it runs deep and wide, spanning across soldiers who've fought bravely on the front lines, civilians caught in the crossfire, and even generations yet unborn. Let's first consider the soldiers. These brave men and women who put their lives on the line often return home carrying more than just physical wounds. They bear the heavy burden of traumatic experiences, manifesting in conditions like post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. Nightmares, flashbacks, a constant state of anxiety, these are but a few of the symptoms they grapple with. It's not just about the battle they fought, it's also about the internal war that continues to rage within them. long after they have left the battlefield. But it's not just the soldiers. Civilians too experience a profound psychological impact. Imagine living in a war zone, where there's a constant threat to life, where the sound of an explosion could mean the end. The fear, the uncertainty, the loss. These experiences can lead to a myriad of mental health issues, from anxiety and depression to PTSD. It's like living in a perpetual state of trauma, one that can persist even when peace eventually comes. And let's not forget the children, the most vulnerable among us. For them, war can mean the loss of home, the loss of family, the loss of a normal childhood. Such early exposure to violence can result in developmental issues, emotional disorders, and a higher risk of mental health problems in adulthood. So you see, the mental health impact of war is far-reaching. It echoes through time, affecting not just those directly involved in the conflict, but also future generations. Soldiers returning home often carry the invisible scars of trauma, leading to conditions like PTSD. Moreover, civilians caught in the crossfire experience severe psychological distress, affecting entire generations. The silent cost of war thus extends beyond the battlefield, into the minds and hearts of those left in its wake. Wars are not just destructive on a personal level, they wreak havoc on economies. This statement carries a weight that many of us may not fully comprehend. The economic impact of wars is a multifaceted issue, with immediate and long-term consequences that extend far beyond the battlefield. Imagine a thriving economy, bustling with trade, innovation, and growth. Now, visualize a war breaking out. The immediate effect is a drastic shift in expenditure. The government's focus turns to war efforts, and resources that were once directed towards growth and development are now siphoned off to fund the machinery of war. Money that could be used for education, healthcare, and infrastructure is instead spent on weapons, ammunition, and military personnel. But the economic toll of war doesn't stop there. Wars disrupt trade and cause instability, making countries less attractive to investors. This reduced investment can slow down economic growth, increase unemployment, and lead to inflation. The ripple effect is felt by everyone, from the factory worker who loses his job due to decreased production, to the small business owner struggling to keep her business afloat amid economic uncertainty. Moreover, the destruction of infrastructure during wars, roads, bridges, factories, schools, is a significant setback for any economy. The rebuilding process is not only expensive but also time-consuming, further delaying economic recovery. And let's not forget the human capital lost in wars, the skilled workers, the innovators, the leaders, whose absence leaves a void in the economy that's hard to fill. Lastly, wars can lead to a vicious cycle of debt. To finance wars, governments often borrow heavily, leading to increased national debt. This debt burden can last for decades, hindering economic development and progress long after the war has ended. The resources that could be invested in education, healthcare, and infrastructure are instead funneled into the machinery of war. The long-term economic consequences are felt by nations for years, hindering progress and development. This is the silent cost of war, a cost that continues to be paid long after the last bullet has been fired. It's not just humans who suffer. Wars have a profound impact on the environment. When we think of battles, we often picture soldiers and weapons, but rarely do we consider the landscapes that bear the brunt of these conflicts. War zones are often left scarred and barren, with forests decimated to clear paths or to use wood for various purposes. This deforestation not only destroys habitats, but also contributes to climate change, as trees that once absorbed carbon dioxide are no longer there to do so. Moreover, the use of certain weapons and military tactics can lead to the release of harmful chemicals into the environment. These toxins can contaminate the soil, the water, and the air, posing risks not only to the local wildlife, but also to people who return to these areas after the conflict has ended. From deforestation to the release of harmful chemicals, the ecological footprint of wars is staggering. The repercussions extend to climate change, affecting us all globally. One of the most alarming aspects is how wars perpetuate a cycle of violence. It's a vicious circle, where one act of aggression often begets another, leading to a seemingly endless cascade of conflict. This cycle isn't solely confined to the battlefield. It infiltrates homes, communities, and nations, creating a culture steeped in animosity and revenge. Wars can create deep-seated hatreds that persist long after the last bullet has been fired. These feelings of resentment, anger, and desire for retaliation can linger for generations, fueling future conflicts and continuing the cycle of violence. But it's not enough just to acknowledge this cycle. We need to break it. And that begins with understanding. It's crucial to address the root causes of war, be it territorial disputes, resource scarcity, ideological differences, or more. It's only by tackling these underlying issues can we hope to disrupt this cycle. Revenge, hatred, and deep-seated animosities can linger for generations, sowing the seeds for future conflicts. Breaking this cycle requires understanding and addressing the root causes of war.